Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Good night. Good evening. My name is Consuelo Hernandez. I'm the director of the Santa Clara County Office of Supportive Housing. Thank you for joining us this evening for the second community meeting. We are going to start off by allowing Pastor John Caravallo to share some words with us. Pastor?
There's seating upstairs as well. So for those of you that are coming in, you're more than welcome to grab a seat upstairs. I want to thank all of you for being here. This is such an exciting moment in the history of our neighborhood to be able to have a face-to-face conversation. And I'm mindful of all of the conversations that have been going on. I was on a Zoom call last week, and friends, I just want to welcome you here. I want to thank you that you have taken very valuable time to come and have a conversation. My true prayer is that we can listen to each other and that we can have a resolute conversation that respects each other and can move forward positively. I think of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, who continually talked about peaceful meetings, to have discussions about tough topics as such as we're dealing with right now. So my prayer for each and every one of you is that you sense a peace and a sense of welcoming here and that we can have dialogue. And I want to thank all the people that are involved that are doing the tough work to really determine what needs to be done. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor. Just a few housekeeping for those that need to use the facilities. The women's restroom is just down the hall. The gentleman's restroom is on the left, right outside this door. When you walked in, you should have received a comment card. And if we can go to the next slide, please. As you know, we are here. Thank you again, Pastor, for allowing us to use this space. We want to be respectful and mindful of the fact that we have a very limited amount of time. We're here for 2 hours, and then we need to end the meeting and return the facility back to the congregation. So you received a comment card. We are allowing 1 hour for public comment. If you don't get to speak, please fill this out and bring it up here before the end of the evening. If you want more time to fill it out, our email addresses are on the bottom of the sheet, as well as the project website, where you can get updates. We will be posting. In the first slide, we shared with you that the meeting is being recorded. Thank you to the city staff for accommodating that. We will be posting the video on the website tomorrow along with the slides. I also did, for the public, want to acknowledge that we have a member of the public who is using their own recording device in the corner. So don't be alarmed if you see somebody that's also recording. So if you didn't get one of these, please see Lily in the back, and she will ensure that you get one. The agenda for this evening, first, we will go through background. For those of you that didn't join us at the first community meeting, we'll provide you with a summary and an overview. And then we'll spend a little time sharing with you what we heard at the first meeting, the various and multiple emails that we have been receiving. We are capturing all of that and sharing it with the elected officials. And then we'll go over through a summary of the proposal, and then again, leave about 1 hour for comments. Next slide, please. We'll do welcome and introductions. Next slide. We have a few ground rules. Thank you, Pastor, for setting the tone for the meeting. And I hope you all can hear me. I'm very short. Many thanks again to our host, the Mission City Church. Please be respectful when you're speaking later this evening. Recognize that we all have our individual comments and opinions, and they're unique, and we all need the space to share those. Be patient with the community engagement process. We have designated and designed a pretty lengthy process. Next slide. The host of the meeting tonight, again, my name is Consuelo Hernandez. I'm the director with the Office of Supportive Housing for the County of Santa Clara. I'm also joined by my colleagues from the City of Santa Clara, Life Moves, and the Sobrato Philanthropies. Next slide, please. The meeting objectives. Number one is we want to address the concerns that were raised by the community during the first community meeting. We want to share the first draft of the proposal and ask specific questions to you all, and then create a space to answer questions and listen to the community. And before we get going, we want to see who's in the room. And we will have people taking notes, but if you can raise your hand if you live in Santa Clara or Sunnyvale. Let's try that one more time. Can you raise your hand if you live in Santa Clara? Marie's going to take a picture. Thank you, everybody. You can put your hand down. Can you raise your hand if you live in the city of Sunnyvale? Some folks upstairs, hi. Can you raise your hand if you've lived in the neighborhood for 1 year? 1 year. Have you lived in the neighborhood for 1 year? At least 1 year. Keep your hands raised if you've lived here for 5 years. At least 5 years. More than 10 years. Thank you. 10 years plus. Can you raise your hand if you attended our first meeting via Zoom on February 13th? Thank you. Marie, did you get that? One more time. Yep. Can you raise your hand if you have visited the project webpage and signed up for email updates? Again, folks, when you walked in, you received a comment card, please visit the website. This is where we will be updating you as information comes through. For instance, this afternoon, we sent out an email notifying you that the meeting is being recorded, that it is being posted. We also posted a series of FAQs. So if you have not visited the website, please do so. The link is at the bottom of the comment card. Next slide, please. Next slide. And thank you for bearing with us as we navigate our first in-person meeting. So we wanted to give you a little bit of background and context on why we're here. So what you have up here is a policy alignment between the City of Santa Clara and the County of Santa Clara. Both of our respective elected officials, City Council, and the Board of Supervisors have directed staff to look at opportunities to increase interim housing. And interim housing is basically a respite space for people who are currently unhoused and are trying to recover and find housing. And our both elected officials have asked us to do this work. And they've asked us for one common thing: do community engagement. And I know it's really hard as community members to feel like you don't know what's going on. I'm going to walk you through the steps that we're proposing as part of our community engagement. Next slide, please. Earlier this year, the City Council held a study session where we, the county, offered the opportunity to use the Benton and Lawrence site for interim housing. And we wanted the City Council first to let us know whether it was worth going out and talking to you, or if it was a pass, go look at another property. They said, yes, but we want you to go and talk to the community and not talk to them once or twice, but really engage and listen. We held our first meeting on February 13th via Zoom. And a lot of you didn't like the webinar style because you couldn't see yourself, you couldn't see each other. So we proposed to do this in-person meeting, and we are recording it, we will be posting it. We have a third meeting scheduled for March 9th. We cannot promise that we'll be able to have a hybrid model, but we will be here in person. And to accommodate those that can't join us, we will be having a fourth meeting via Zoom. We hope that through those 4 meetings, you're able to learn more about the project, that we are able to answer your questions, and also directly respond to some of the concerns that you've shared. We're going to start some of that tonight. Next slide, please. So I realize it's very small, and you will have the opportunity to see the presentation if you visit the project website. But what we've done is taken your comments and one more. That one, thank you so much. We've categorized them or grouped them into 7 categories. I will briefly describe them here, and then with my colleagues, we'll go over and actually respond to some of your questions or concerns. What we heard is the approval process. Is this a done deal? How do I vote? How do I share with my elected officials my opinions and my thoughts about the site? How did you select this site? Why here? Why did you do it so close to the neighborhood? What about my kids? What about if I want to walk to the park? Did you think about us? Safety and security. How are you going to ensure the safety of our community? How are you going to ensure the safety of the people that are occupying and living in the units? Impacts on real estate values. I worked really hard to buy this property, and now this is going to impact the value of my home. Information on similar sites. You asked for data. You wanted to know, what do other communities that have these types of developments, what are they seeing? What are their impacts to the neighborhood? And show us the data, show us information. You also expressed some concerns about parking. There is not enough parking around your community, and how is this project going to impact that? Are you accounting for staff parking and participant parking? How are you going to handle the overflow? And by the way, the church next door uses this site as overflow parking. How are you going to address that? And then the last was the site and the monitoring. How are you going to operate this? We're concerned about this thing that you call low barrier entry, and how are you going to ensure our safety and security? Next slide. We're going to go through each topic slowly, and then you're going to hear from other people, and not just me. Thank you. So the first area is the approval process. This is not a done deal. As I mentioned earlier, the City Council and the Board of Supervisors asked us to come out and speak to you and hear about your concerns, try to mitigate those concerns through our responses, and give you the opportunity to modify the proposal where appropriate. That was the first action. We're coming out, doing community engagement. We plan to return back to the City Council with a set of recommendations based on what we've heard from the community. Every email that you send us, every comment that you submit tonight will be packaged as a community engagement report to the City Council and to the Board of Supervisors. So the City Council has a decision to make whether they want to move forward with the possible home key application, and the county has a decision to make whether we want to lease the property to Life Moves or to the city. So there's 2 opportunities for you to voice your direct opinions to our elected officials. If you don't want to do that via email and you want to attend in person, those are the 2 opportunities. Assuming that moves forward, then Life Moves would work to submit a NOFA application through the Home Key program. That would basically leverage resources, and it's very competitive, and there isn't a lot of money in this next round. So assuming that happens and they get an award, then they would start working on the development plans, construction, coming back and talking to you again about the timeline. And then if that happens and the project is completed, then we would have a series of other meetings to let you know, what are we going to do about outreach? How would we target people that are unhoused in Santa Clara, et cetera, et cetera. All of that only happens if the City Council and the Board of Supervisors approve the project. Next slide. Can you hear me? Is that better? Okay. Is that better? Okay. Sorry, everybody. We work at the county and we have restrictions on our masks, so it's a little weird not to wear it. The next topic was sites. Is that better? Yes? Okay, thank you. The next is site selection. Why this location? A lot of you said to us, you didn't take into consideration the walking distance that our children take to go to school, and why here? So every site, whenever the county looks at a property for potential development, whether it's for permanent housing or for interim housing, we look at some of the same things that we all, as individuals, look at when we want to buy a property. How close is it to transit? How close is it to a grocery store? How close is it to my doctor? Are there amenities in the neighborhood? Those are the same things that we use whenever we determine whether a site should be considered for interim or permanent housing. And when the government owns property, we don't have to pay for it or source it in the regular market. So if we wanted to buy the same property in the city of Santa Clara, it would cost over $10 million. And that would take away from the money that we can invest in the services. So that was one of the reasons that we decided to offer this as a potential opportunity for interim housing. Next slide. You also asked us, why would you put this so close to other shelters that the county is already running? So what we did is we're showing you 2 of the existing sites that the county is currently managing, and we wanted to clarify, they are not interim housing sites for a long period of time. The first site that you have here is the Bella Vista Inn. The Bella Vista Inn is being used right now for 2 years. We started moving people in last week for 2 years as interim housing. After that, the project is going to be a permanent housing project that includes units for anybody who's low income and those that are previously unhoused. And so there's 2 phases to that project. It will not be a shelter in the long term, or it won't be interim housing. Clara Gardens is the permanent project that will be there. So I just want to make sure you're aware that is not going to be a permanent interim housing site. So the proximity, you're correct. It's very close to this site, but it will not be the same type of use. On the presentation, there's a link to the project website for Clara Gardens. If you want to learn more about that permanent project, it has already been approved by the city and the developer is seeking funding. Next slide, please. The next site that you all talked about is another site that we're using through a partnership with the Covenant House. The site location is 2250, the addresses are very similar. 2250 El Camino Real. It used to be the Western Motel. That is also a site that is currently being used for interim housing, but it will be converted into permanent housing. There is no project yet. Charities Housing has not completed any community engagement, but that is a little bit farther from the site. But again, it will not be interim housing in the long term. Both of these locations are being used by the county, by our office, and the people that are living in there are not specifically for people that live, for unhoused individuals from Santa Clara. We have a community queue. It captures everybody throughout the county, and there's no specific targeting of unhoused people from the city of Santa Clara. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to welcome Sergeant Deeger to come up and share from his perspective what he sees out in your community. He's a sergeant with the city of Santa Clara. You're taller than me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Sergeant Greg Deeger. I am in charge of the police department's community response team. We have a lot of taskings on our plate, but one of them, one of the major ones, is the response to homelessness and some of the issues that arise from homelessness. So that's why I've been invited out here tonight. I anticipate my role will probably be most felt during the Q&A. So I want to try to keep this brief. But I will say, of all the things that we're dealing with in my unit, obviously the homelessness issue is pretty large. And I think for all of you that live in the city, you could probably agree with that. Whether it's a direct effect or kind of a tertiary effect, we're seeing it day in and day out, right? Some of the observations that I've had, and I'll preface this by saying that I'm just speaking from my own personal observations in this role. I've been in this role for about 1.5 years and have been kind of boots on the ground, ground truth perspective. So I'm not saying anything as an official statement of the Santa Clara Police Department or anything like that. I will say that we are in a tough spot in law enforcement in how we can handle the homelessness issue. We are a little bit limited. There's been some case law decisions in recent years, Martin versus Boise being a major one. The criminal justice system as a whole, some of the COVID impacts and legislation that's been passed that has kind of decriminalized things or lessened some of the penalties for certain crimes. These are all kind of combining to exacerbate the issue, right? And so historically, years past, you may have just been able to theoretically arrest somebody who was homeless for a myriad of violations, and some of those are no longer viable options for us now, right? A lot of what I do in my unit and my partners as well, we have a mental health component, officers that are specifically trained for that. We go out, we always try to lead with compassion. At the end of the day, we are law enforcement officers and we do have to uphold the law and a standard of life, but we do try to always lead with compassion, try to connect people to services and resources, try to figure out what's making them tick, right, and how we can best help them and serve them. Through these adventures, I will say that I know I tuned into the Zoom on the 13th, and I heard a lot of what you're saying. I myself am a Santa Clara resident, so I empathize with all of you. The homeless population is on the rise in the city, and it's scattered throughout. And I'm not advocating for or against, I'm just a reporter of facts, but these folks that are experiencing homelessness are scattered all throughout the community. They're in the creeks. I could get into a long discussion about Valley Water, but we're capped for time, so I won't. We need some sort of solution. I'm not saying what that solution is, but I think we can all agree, or I hope we would agree, that when we see folks that are either living in a lean-to in the creek, or they're finding shelter in front of a business that's trying to operate, or whatever other situation you can imagine, we want something better than that, right? I know my unit certainly does. We get frustrated when we go out and we offer services and resources and we're not able to connect somebody with that. Sometimes we get refused. Sometimes they just tell us they're not interested. Sometimes they're so incapacitated from drug use or mental health issues that they can't even make the decision. But those times where we have somebody that's like, yes, I'm at a point where I would like to accept housing, I'd like to be surveyed for housing, and we bring the folks out to get them surveyed, and then they wait or they go into the queue. That's frustrating because it would be wonderful to have some sort of ability to have somebody who says, you know what, I'm in a position now where I want to have some help. I'm ready to receive that. And we could just pluck them right off the street and get them on a better path. And right now, that's not what we're experiencing. And that's obviously what we want as a police department for you all, because we want to be able to serve everybody that's in our city, whatever their circumstance. But we also need to maintain that quality of life. It's not okay when I have to go out to, a house because there's, feces being thrown over a fence into their yard, or, somebody's experiencing a mental health crisis and it's potentially putting people in danger, or whatever, other, again, myriad scenarios you guys can all think about. We need to have a solution that we can pluck people off the street and get them on a better path. So that's kind of my little 2 cents on it. I am always available to answer questions. If my information isn't on there, I can make sure I'll stick around tonight afterwards. Feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to the community and kind of educating folks on kind of the current situation on the ground. And again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Sergeant. And apologies, everybody. We just noticed that one of the slides, when we transferred the presentation over to the computer, we have a map that we developed in response to one of your questions about the proximity of this location to schools, daycare, parks. Unfortunately, there was some issue with when we translated the presentation over. The version that we post tomorrow, we will make sure that it has that map. But it's a great way, this was our way of responding to your questions about the number of schools that are in close proximity. So for community meeting number 3, we will make sure to carve out time to talk about that map. Apologies for that. And thank you, Sergeant, for your honest words. What we're trying to do here is give you the different voices from community members that have to interact with our current housing crisis and the impact that has on people, which means they become homeless. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Greenberg with Life Moves to talk about safety within the building. We're going to take questions after. Thank you. Apologies, everybody. If you just give us a second to go through our presentation, the faster we are done, the more time we have to hear you. I hear the question about the schools. Thank you. Please, ma'am, please. Yes, we will work on getting you that before the end of the evening. For now, Dr. Greenberg.
Okay, I'm going to be brief. I understand people want to make comments and ask questions. Let me say, because everyone's concerned, obviously, about community safety. And, we've opened up interim housing sites in Half Moon Bay and in Mountain View during the pandemic. We're opening up 240 doors in Redwood City. And people are rightfully concerned about safety outside of the program. And we get called into libraries and into parks so often. And we understand that people don't want the unhoused in libraries all day long and bathing in libraries and in parks all day long. And what we're trying to do is give people a place to go during the day so that they aren't in front of storefronts and libraries and parks. Our facilities are staffed 24 hours a day. There's always a minimum of 2 staff on. Would be about 24 full-time staff at the program. Our single adult sites get upwards of 1,000 volunteers from the community a year. Teens, parents, families, serving food on the weekends. We try to integrate the community into our programs. So we really make an effort to make it not only a safe place physically, but to feel like a safe place. So people don't have to watch their back, whether they're our residents or clients, or staff, or our large cadre of volunteers. Next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Greenberg. The other concern that you raised was related to the impact on your property values. So one of the benefits that we have of working in the county is we have a really good relationship with the assessor's office. So there's a couple of reports that I can share with you, and I'm sure you all will find an alternative report that says the exact opposite, which is that it will have an impact. What we have found is that there is no impact or there's no correlation in real estate values. And the words that we take from the assessor's office is they're the ones that assess the value of your property. And they have found that there is no impact. Everybody, again, we did start this meeting with talking about being mindful of the space that we're occupying. We definitely don't want to end the meeting in a way. We want to listen to everybody. I received a phone call today from one of your neighbors who asked me to read her email that she sent to me and did not want to disclose her email address in fear of people coming and being mean to her because she's supportive of the project. We're here trying to provide you with an impartial and responding to your questions, so please bear with us. We're almost done with our presentation, and then you'll have 1 minute each up to 8 o'clock to share your thoughts. Next slide, please. One more. The next area that you asked about was information on similar locations. I'm gonna welcome Heather Griffin from Life Moves to talk about her Mountain View site.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I am going to read a lot of this slide to you all because I understand that it is hard to read, and it does give specific data to one of the projects that we currently run, which is our Mountain View interim housing location. So this project that we currently operate serves 120 units and 124 individuals. So we have some families and some singles in combination at that location. It is state-of-the-art modular units. We got really creative to make sure that we could create supportive spaces in combination with living spaces where every individual has dignity. So they each have their own private unit. It enters with a lockable code that they have. So it creates something that is unique to them where they can have safety. We do provide on-site laundry, kitchen and meal services. There's a community room where we do programming and therapy and group workshops. We also invite in our volunteers that Brian talked about to do things with our folks who live there. We have dog kennels and other outdoor areas for general space. We also, like I said, have a large portion, over 30% of this property is dedicated to our supportive service spaces. So those are the 22 staff that we have listed up on this screen. That's an associate program director, case management, housing support specialists, children's support specialists. So again, I said that this project served families. which means that we have a special staff person dedicated to ensuring that those children are enrolled in school, have trauma-informed care, and can navigate some of those social difficulties from being unhoused. We also staff that project with a licensed vocational nurse. So a lot of our unhoused community, those older adults, have issues from being unhoused that are compounded by that situation. And so we make sure that they get back on track to connecting with primary care and receiving medical treatment. We also bring in volunteers in the form of students. So we have Masters of Social Work students and behavioral health students, predoctoral, who provide on-site therapy for those suffering from mental illness and other kind of trauma-related histories based on their experiences in life thus far. Just some statistics about what this project did in its first year of operation. We served 312 people last fiscal year. And that has contributed overall to a 43% decrease in the unhoused population in the city of Mountain View. And I think that's really important when we're talking about the impact of community. I also want to point out some of the numbers that you guys had asked for in terms of like, well, what's that safety response? What are the issues, right? There's this discussion of how it impacts crime numbers. And so those are listed in terms of how many emergency responses we have had at this location. And so in that first year of operation, we had 33 medical responses from police. We had 7 responses for threats at the site and 4 responses for violent behavior out of the approximately 120 individuals that were served in that time frame. So we wanted to be really transparent about that response. Again, the vast majority that you're seeing are those medical, because as I mentioned, we have a lot of folks who have delayed medical issues from being unhoused. Okay, next slide.
Thank you, Heather. The second example we wanted to share with you, next slide, please. This evening, one of the comments that was raised was related to the proximity of sites, that are close to each other and how we engage and maintain those relationships with the community after the project is constructed. So this evening, we're sharing with you a family project that we have at the Civic Center for the county, 70 West Heading. It's known as Casitas de Esperanza. It is run by Amigos de Guadalupe. And just down the street, the city of San Jose is developing Lot E, what they refer to as Lot E. It's also a Life Move site. They're very close to each other. They serve a very different population. In the first 2 years that we have been running Casitas de Esperanza in partnership with Amigos, about 54% of the participants transfer or transition into permanent housing. There are 25 temporary housing units using pallet shelter. We're not proposing this here at the site, but again, we wanted to bring you this as an example. But the one thing to share with you, or 2 things, is the average length of stay for a family here is 145 days. And we also have a community advisory committee that meets monthly. And the purpose of that community advisory committee meeting is an opportunity for us to give updates to the community on a regular basis, to answer questions or concerns. That specific community has provided a lot of input in terms of what the site looks like. So for instance, they were instrumental, and this is the community members, were instrumental in designing the exterior fence of the project, because one of the things that they commented is, we drive by it every day, we see this ugly fence, and we don't want our neighborhood to look like that. And so they have this beautiful treatment that they've added to the exterior of the fence, and they've also added this like parklet at the corner of the site that is open to both people that are staying at the casitas and the neighborhood. Next slide. This is just to show you what other cities are doing. One of the other things that we heard is, what are other communities doing? Are they doing their fair share? And are there other examples of locations where you are building this type of housing next to residential neighborhoods? There is one neighborhood in the city of San Jose, Branham and Monterey. The composition of that neighborhood is very similar to what you all have here. The site is triangular in nature, and there are single-family residentials immediately abutting that. This map shows you all of our interim housing sites as part of our Home Key Round 2. Next slide, please. Next, you asked about parking and a concern about the impacts it would have. The current proposal shows 80 parking spaces. We are going to get into the details of the site plan after, so I won't spend too much time talking. Just wanted to acknowledge that that was an issue that the community raised or a concern. Next slide, please. The next area was related to site operations and monitoring, and I'm going to ask Dr. Greenberg to please come back up and speak to us about this.
Again, I'm going to try to be brief. Let me first explain that since the pandemic, no one is building congregate interim housing sites. The model is that everyone has their own room, their own lock on their door, their own window, their own HVAC, their own desk and bed and window, their own privacy. Middle-class folks value privacy, but so do poor folks and people experiencing homelessness. I want to say real quick that between the 2019 and the 2021 point in time count, the homeless count, the number in the city of Santa Clara went up 42%. When we opened the program in Mountain View, it went down about 40%. So part of what we're trying to do is impact that, is stem the growth in homelessness and begin to decrease that, and not have that number just increase every year. What am I supposed to be talking about? We're looking, the average length of stay for successful people will be about 5 months. It takes time for people to save the money and go through the process of securing housing. So the model is throughput. The model is stay, get a case, get an assessment. The assessment leads to a case plan. The case plan is a sort of Google map to exit homelessness. Next slide, please. So the proposal is 124 units, all with in-suite baths, each unit serving a single or a couple, most of them single adults. Again, ADA compliant, stairways and elevators. If the sites are, you know, they're comfortable for our staff, they're comfortable for the clients, and they're comfortable for our groups of volunteers. They're very thoughtful. The new modulars are really intentionally and beautifully designed. Next slide, please. That is the site plan. I think we can go past that in the interest of time. Site vision, that is a second floor view. Next slide, please. That's exterior rendering, view from Lawrence Expressway. Next slide, please. That's the view from Benton Street. Thank you. Next slide, please. That's the entryway, exterior rendering. Next slide, please. And that is the view from the creek. That's, I believe, an existing fence. If it's not, it's a fence that would be built. Next slide, please. So the standard unit has a kitchenette, an in-suite bathroom. They're very small. They're what in San Francisco is called micro housing. They're very small, but people are grateful for the opportunity to be off the street. Next slide, please.
Can we go back just a few slides, please? Oh, maybe 3 more. One more. I think people were trying to take a picture of the site plan. There we go. I think people were trying to take a picture of this. This shows the orientation of the parking, the structure, and then in the center is the community space where the services that Heather and Dr. Greenberg spoke about, all of that would happen on site. And again, the PowerPoint is going to be available and posted on the website. You'll be able to download that.
Sure. So there's been a lot of comments about low barrier entry. We prefer to take, to be honest, the more challenging elements of the population. We find that law enforcement it's safer for law enforcement, it's safer for the community if when they need to interact with the population, it's in a clean, well-lit place with social work staff assisting and not in an alley or in front of a storefront. So we prefer a low barrier, if people that can be safe in the communal aspects of the community, we prefer that. So low barrier entry in terms of pets, low barrier entry in terms of how long you've been homeless. If people are on probation or parole, a place for the probation or parole officer to meet with that person, a place for the person to be linked with healthcare. Let me say also that although it's for people experiencing homelessness in the city of Santa Clara, it's the county who prioritizes those people. So while we don't choose the people to pick, it's coordinated entry in the city of Santa Clara, we prefer to not discriminate against people as much as we can to maintain, while maintaining a safe operating environment. That does not mean we tolerate illegal behavior on site. We do not tolerate illegal behavior on site, but we do try to be low barrier. It doesn't do anyone any good if we're cherry picking from among the population and taking in the easiest to serve. It serves the community best if we take people that, to be totally honest, you don't want in your parks and in your libraries and on your streets. And they have a place to go with structured activities during the day.
Thank you, Dr. Greenberg. Can we advance to slide 35? Thank you. That concludes our presentation. We are working on getting the number and seeing if there's a way we can share the map with you while we listen to you as well. Just a few ground rules, again, taking the cue from the pastor who kicked off the meeting for us, is please share your experiences. We want to hear the local concerns. And respect each other's experiences. We have our staff, Lily and Colleen. We ask that you raise your hand if you want to speak. We are giving folks 1 minute because there are so many of you and we only have about an hour. So please be mindful. They will have a timer. They'll hold the mic, and after a minute, we'll move on to the next person. So Lily, maybe we can start with the woman who's right next to you. And if you can please say your name.
Hi, my name is Fong Hertzberg, and I'm wondering, so despite everyone's concerns and protests, is this still going to happen? So the point of these meetings is just to hear us and then go through with this anyway, despite the fact that the majority of the people in this neighborhood don't want this to happen. Is this true?
And I forgot to mention that for the Q&A, we'll be taking the comment. And I don't want to take up your time, but to answer your question very quickly, it is not a done deal. It still has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors and the City Council. Next. I did answer the question, folks. The decision has not been made. The decision has not been made. Yes, your consideration will be taken, and your comments will be taken into consideration. We will be sharing that with our elected officials. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Yang. I live in Santa Clara. I have a couple of questions. First question you asked about the homeless shelter don't have the impact for the housing. I just immediately searched in the Google. I found a lot of message talking about if the homeless shelter, 500 feet close to the homeless shelter, will be 6% lower than the shelter 500 feet to 1,000 feet. So you can Google it and you will immediately find that impact. And the second question, you mentioned about you have the Half Moon Bay side and Mountain View side for the homeless interim shelter. What kind of the interim shelter? Is it the same as here? Because here, the Santa Clara, that one is for the mental illness and also for the job. Is it the same? What are the impacts for this side? Do you have any history about the site impact in the community? The third question is this the only place in Santa Clara can build a homeless shelter right now? Is this the only place? Why we choose this place for a homeless shelter?
Thank you, sir. Before we proceed, So we are here for you. I'm happy to answer the questions along with my colleagues. That will take more of your time speaking up. So if you would prefer that we answer the question, please raise your hand. The majority of you would like to speak. We're going to take your questions. We're going to allow you to speak because that's why you're here tonight. So just want to show you all voted that you want to hear what each other has to say. Lily, if we can start to make our way to the front and work the room a little bit. Yes, we are taking notes. Hillary on my team is down here taking your questions. We will be posting them on the website. Go ahead, Lily.
I'm John Chin, and I've lived in the area since 2005. I'm actually, I worked next door to Heather's facility in Mountain View. I have some experience with that, and I think if you want to see the impact of that, you should go to Leghorn Street, walk down the street around dusk, and see for yourself what it's like. It's a very nice facility. I agree that there should be something done for the homeless, but at the same time, the business that was next door to them had to hire security that was on site all the time. I had a trailer parked behind the building. It was constantly bottles back there. There were inappropriate things being done behind the building, and this never occurred. I worked there since 2013. This never was a problem until the shelter went in. My second issue is the fact that we would not be here at this meeting unless our neighbors went door to door and told us that this was happening. You guys did nothing to inform the community.
Go ahead, Lily. If you all just be mindful that we are in a church facility and that you, Lily, we will continue to time you.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I live in this neighborhood, and I'm very in favor of this proposal. As a community, and just as people who exist, we should be wanting to make the world better, even if it doesn't relate to us.
Sir, please. Everybody, I understand you want to say your piece.
Please give her time.
Please. We're going to start your time over. Folks, we do not want to end the meeting because we're not allowing each other to speak. We will absolutely end the meeting if people are not being respectful. Please give us a little grace to work the room, or if you want to line up, please make 2 lines here and we will take you in order. We'll do 1 minute each. Stand behind her. Lily, will you allow her to finish her comment? And then sir in the red, if you'd like to line up. Go ahead, please. We'll start over. 1 minute.
As a community, and just as people who exist, we should be wanting to make the world better, even if it doesn't relate directly to us. But for this project, I actually relate to it quite a lot. I have a lot in common with the people who would benefit. I have multiple chronic illnesses, I'm on Medi-Cal and SNAP, I have mental health conditions, and I've lived in 8 different places across 4 states in the last 5 years. So much of what others are worried about coming to the neighborhood is already here. The only difference between me and those who would be using the facility is that I have the privilege of a family that was able to help support me. Potential residents of this building would be no more of a threat to you and your families than I am. And honestly, regardless of how you relate or not, we are all much closer to being homeless than we will ever be to being billionaires. People who would use this facility are not scary people. They are not criminals. They are just people who don't have a house. And they likely have already been let down by everyone around them. Just the fact that a person has taken the steps to get into this facility where they can find support means that they are trying to take better steps.
You want to hold the mic for me? Okay, my name's Lance Jacobs, and it's great to see all my neighbors here. I would just love to hear from everyone together, like that we are totally against this. Yes? Let them hear our voices to know what's here. So I want to comment on a couple of things. Yes, against the location. And you make a very good point. Yep, that's what my sign says, actually. So I'm going to make this quick, really just short bullet points. As far as I can tell, this is fully biased. All we've heard from them, that like how unbiased it is, but if you look at all of these people that are here, they're telling us how great it is. If it's so unbiased, why don't you bring in professionals that tell us how ungreat it will be? It's biased. I work in sales, and I know salesmanship when I see it. And it's great that you're a PhD, but you're a great seller too. I could see it. I'd be curious to see what the commission looks like for this thing when it's done. The other thing is you don't need a PhD to be homeless or to understand homelessness. I worked in San Francisco for 3 years, and I saw exactly what it was about.
My name is Farouk. I live in the area for 34 years. I have 3 close friends who helped the homeless. They were like this lady wanted to help them, and all 3 fed them, housed them. All 3 of them were murdered brutally by the same people they helped. My sister lives in a low-income housing near here. You guys have put, it's a county housing. You have put somebody's homeless there. She's afraid of coming out of her room. She said they are dirty, they mess up, they go through their mail, and somebody walked in front of her and urinated outside the door. So this is the kind of person you want to bring over, please do not bring him. There are places right by 237 and Lawrence Expressway that county owns. Why don't you put them there? It's a lot of lots, a lot of space. You can put thousands of them right there. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sarah Foad. I have lived in Sunnyvale for 20 plus years, and I recently bought a house on Benton Street 2 years ago. Frankly, I am a bit horrified at the reaction that has been going on today. I am in support of this housing facility, and I share concerns about the safety of the area. I think the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. And ultimately, I think the concern about the increased presence of unhoused people is valid. And I think there are ways, and I'm curious about the countermeasures that might be implemented to address some of those things when they come up. But ultimately, I just want to say that it's a privilege for us to be able to have this decision about whether homeless people get a place to live. And again, I am shocked and horrified at some of the things that have been said and shared today as a member of this community.
Hi, my name is Vishal. I represent the Save Our Neighborhood group, and I live right in front of the proposed site. Now, let me share you some facts. First of all, thank you for enlightening us with the political process, because we have been lied that you are up against the bigger power. City council cannot do anything. Now we know which trees to bark. Anyways, we visited 3 Life Moves facilities, 2 in San Jose, 1 in Mountain View. None of them are full. None of them are full, okay? Life Move facilities takes families, right? Mountain View facilities takes families. Why not this facility, right? Take my question, please. Why this facility is only for the male adults and the couples who can be drug addicts, who can be sex offenders, who can be mentally ill, and my kids play in the community right behind 7-Eleven. We are not gated. We are not gated, right? Second thing I want to ask, in the Mountain View facilities, area for families is protected. Hey, why only us timed out? Why not the people who support?
1 minute.
1 minute is not over. I took 15 seconds, right? Area for families is protected by locked gates and fences, and sex offenders are not allowed in this site, right? You don't take families here because you don't have a way to separate that area. People who oppose, time is up for them. People who support, they can go on and on.
Hi, my name's John Sanchez. My wife and I, we live right behind the facility off on Golden State. I think a lot of people are upset because when you guys put the flyer out, it was like days within the meeting. And it seemed like you guys had no planning, no you didn't do any research, because anybody can Google how many, and the fact that you guys can't answer how many schools are in the area. There's a liquor store right across the street from this proposed site. My brother's homeless, my sister's homeless, and it's due to drugs, it's due to mental illness. I have a daughter that I want to protect, and the other gentleman's correct. We don't need to talk to these people. We need to go to City Hall, because obviously they're the ones going to make the decision, and that's what we need to do as a whole. So I don't think I don't think it's really going to work, because they're not even answering our questions. And why are we here if they're not going to do that? So thank you.
Hi, my name is Wilma Cadorna. I live in Prune Ridge and Tracy. And first of all, I want to thank our police force that they do a wonderful job. We can't forget you enough. I'd like to suggest that tomorrow you have these probably printed. I know it's accessible to the website, but I think it's better when people are looking at them that it's printed and given out to people. And secondly, is there a Board of Supervisor hearing regarding whether this should be built or not? We need to know. The community should be given a flyer ahead of time that there's a hearing, what time, what date, so we could be prepared. Now, first I want to say, we talk about homelessness as a generic one population, and it's not. Do we even have a database of people that are homeless, and on what reason, on what basis? And really, it's a gamut of mental health categories. And I applaud you. There are very people like her who pulls herself together who need this facility. I don't really need to know how nice the facility is. What I need to know is, when you say decrease in homeless population, where did they go? The people that you service, did they go back to the street? I understand, 1 minute is not enough. Give me 1 more minute. I understand. But first of all, I think there has to be an analysis before we say that it's gonna be safe.
Hello, my name is Anna. I live here more than 10 years, and I want to share just a very short story here. I often take my kids to across the street to the park to play tennis, and sometimes they see like the homeless people go around, and my 6-year-old little girl will ask me, "Mom, what are they doing? Why they're watching me? Why they walk around? I feel so scared. I don't know what should I do. I cannot play. Mom, what should I do?" I just feel so sad. Sometimes I say, you are safe. But my 6-year-old girl, she cannot understand. If you have a girl 6-year-old asking you, because I think you are both parents, say, I cannot play because they are watching me. I don't know what they're doing. They're wandering around. I mean, I cannot imagine in the future if there's so many like homeless wandering around and my kids cannot use the park anymore for tennis. I don't know how can I do with the neighborhood kids. Right? I think you have kids. You can feel the same way as me, right? Please just for the kids, please.
No. Oh, you're holding it. Okay. Hi, my name's Michelle. I'm a homeowner here at the corner of Pomeroy and Benton. And I also just wanted to say that I'm supportive of the project and to say thanks for all the work that you've done to address the questions the community had on Zoom the other night. I also have 2 children, 3 and 6 years old, and I'm also here to show them that everybody in the community matters, not just those of us who have the privilege to have a home. I remember when I was 8 years old, I had an experience where my single mom, some things outside of her control happened, and I remember being very afraid if we would end up homeless. And we're very lucky we didn't because of the infrastructure like this and others. But I just wanted to say I remember how terrifying and traumatizing that was. And if there's anything we can do to support others in that situation, I'm happy to do it.
Everybody, Colleen is timing everybody for 1 minute. We're holding the mic. After 1 minute, we're dropping the mic. Please be respectful of each other. Everybody wants to speak. Go ahead, Lily. She'll hold the mic.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce. I am PhD in the USA, and we are taught all the time that we need to work hard and earn a better life. But you know, for all these homeless shelters, it is not really solving the true problems. You provide house and the free food for all these people, all this has mental illness, and you are not helping them because it only attract more and more people coming to this densely populated neighborhood. And nobody is really, nowadays the policemen are not, cannot really solve these safety issues. The second problem I want to mention is building all these homeless shelters will destroy the trust between the government officials and the residents, because based on all the surveys and with all the legal names and the legal resident address, the majority of people in Santa Clara, in Sunnyvale, it's not 1 minute.
Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Okay, just a few points. I'll probably be under a minute. First, I think that this site will cause a problem for the people that live in it. I believe that some of the people in the facility will get hit by cars. I was driving north on Lawrence a number of years ago, had nothing to do with this neighborhood. I just happened to be here. And I mean, I'm not talking about, I don't have nothing in it. That event had nothing to do with this neighborhood. I saw a group of students crossing Lawrence, more than 6 of them together as a group, paying attention to each other, not paying attention to the traffic. One of them was hit by a car. I was 2 or 3 cars behind them. I did not cause this in any way, but I saw it clearly. The mentally ill people are very impatient. We have some relatives of mentally ill. I know that for a fact. And they will not be paying attention to their environment either. I am positive that some of them will cross Lawrence and get hit by a car. So it is to their benefit not to have it here.
I'll start my own timer, so I have it. Okay, you'll hold the mic, thank you. I had a prepared spiel that I'll put out because it was for the city and council members who are not here, so I'll talk to you. And Doctor, I actually listened to you very intently when you had your ABC interview 2 years back when the Mountain View facility was introduced, and I was really impressed. I was impressed by your quote. And you said that the best way to implement homeless shelter is that the neighbors don't know you're there and you're not standing out in the community. Like, that really hit me. People will be confused, where do I stand? So let me make clear. I'm against the location choice and the low entry barrier. I'm not against the concept of what you're doing. I think the concept of what you're doing is very noble, done in the right way, in the right location. Over here, it's horrible to our safety and security. There's so many reasons. I have 2 daughters too. We live within walking distance of the community. I am afraid of what happens when folks with a lot of mental illness come over there, and yes, you will give them your tender love and care, but at some point they'll come out.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ben Hertzberg. I live on Schaefer Drive. I really do appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I think it's really important that we build this type of facility. I think the low barrier to entry is important as well. I think all of those things combined with the location immediately adjacent to our homes is really scary. Like, this is 200 feet from my house where I raised my kids. As a child walking home from school, I was assaulted by a homeless person who was looking for money for their next high. And I don't think it's enough to say that you will not allow illegal activity in the facility, because these people are free to exit the facility, walk down the street to the park, and do what they're going to do. It is still dangerous to the community to combine those things so close. I would like the community to help you find a better location. We will raise money, we will do what's needed. We would like you to get this done, but please, with our safety too.
Hello, my name is Alana. I lived in the Bay Area for 15 years, and I live just across the around the corner here from the development. I'm in strong support of this proposal, especially the low barrier to entry is key and important to ensure that people who are suffering from mental illness, addiction, and legal troubles, which criminalization of homelessness has caused many people who just lost their housing to have criminal records. It is very important for them to have a place to live. Studies show the best solution for homelessness is to provide housing. Any other programs are much more expensive and much less useful, helpful, both for the people who suffer homelessness and for the community. I think that the decline in property values, even if it was going to happen, which I don't know if it will help many of us who live here who are renting and will decrease our rents, which will be actually a good thing for the community here. So I'm in strong support for this community, and I'm kind of upset that we have not seen any of our...
Hi, my name is Arji, and I have some question to Dr. Greenberg. So why decide you don't accept family? In Mountain View, you accept family. Or do you think this low entry barrier is not safe for family? If that is not safe for family, so that is not safe for the whole neighborhood. Yeah. And the second question to Consuelo is, what is the timeline for this project? And after the 4 rounds of communication, when you expect to send a report or recommendation to the city, and when you expect the city and the county to make the decision. So this is, we want to understand the timeline. And the third question is, what is the difference of the interim shelter and the emergency shelter? So this is some concept I try to understand more. And the last one is, we have visit 3 different Life Moves sites. I think this is really well managed. I really appreciate your work. But I think all of them are not built in the neighborhood. They are built in the industry area, especially in the Mountain View. Yeah.
Hello. I want to tell you about a homeless woman who's living out in her car outside her house. We often give her food and water because she's exposed to the elements, cold and such. We told her about these projects which are coming up and how it could help her. Her response was, I am never going to go into one of these temporary housing shelters because they are unsafe and I feel safer out in the road in my car. It is not a surprise that you'll see several homeless people still sleeping right across the street from the Bella Vista project because they do not want to go there. Just walk down that street. Why are those homeless people still right outside that project? You cannot even support them. With limited ability to perform background checks, there'll be pedophiles, substance abusers, and all kinds of criminal activities concentrated in a very small area, which spills over in the community. We say a strong no to this project. Last time when you came up and we heard you, Dr. Greenberg, you did not even know about it.
Hi, my name is Ken. I live at Pomeroy West, right around the corner. I am opposed to this project as well for all of the reasons outlined. And also, I think there's a question of liability. Who's responsible for these issues having a harmful impact on the quality of our life in this area? If crime increases, if there are incidents of the drug addicted and mentally ill harassing people, if there are health and safety issues caused by the detritus left behind, who is ultimately responsible? Is it actionable? Can the residents of this neighborhood become involved in a class action suit against the county? I guess we'll find out if the decision's made to locate the shelter at that location. Also, I want to point out that there's a figure you showed that homelessness has increased by 35% in this city. But if you're serving homeless from other cities in the county, that statistic becomes totally meaningless. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So my name is Ashish, and I live in this neighborhood for past 23 years. I'm raising a family, 2 daughters. The biggest concern is I'm not hearing any checks and balances. I don't see anything other than the photos and then, the resource allocation. So for example, 2 to 24 people for 120 rooms, I think it's a joke. The other thing is, how are we going to enforce? So things like, we all know about Jessica's law, right? So if a sexual offender cannot go within the 2,000 feet, so 3.379 miles to be exact, within a school, Who is going to enforce that? Nobody, right? It's like somebody has to call in because of the low barrier to entry. So I'm not opposed to homeless shelter, but what I'm opposed to is the location. I'm opposed to the way it's being run, and it's being like, explained to the people how it is going to be run. And, that really scares me out.
Yeah, my name is Stephen, and I know in the previous that presentation you mentioned after this public hearing meeting, and you're going to submit the recommendation to the council and also to the board, the supervisor. So I had a question. Does the public have opportunity to comment on the supported housing recommendation before it goes to the council and going to the board? So, and also we want to see, how's the supporting housing considered the environmental impact, regarding so much of the public input on this project. And that's the question I have.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Yang. So I have two questions. The first one is mentioned that there are two other shelters were turning into permanent housing in El Camino. In other words, before that, we will have 3 shelters nearby. What are the officials want to do for these situations, and any way to handle that? The second one is that is anyone from the city, county, police department, or live house can show us the data like the criminal rate before and after building the shelters? I think we need more detailed data rather than slides with beautiful pictures. Thanks.
My name's Denise DeLang. I've lived in this neighborhood for 35 years, and I support any homeless shelters that we can put together, especially ones that have single room occupancy. When I parked today, I looked around and there was a homeless man walking down the street, right across the street from this church. So the homeless are in your community, and I'm very disappointed in my neighbors for being so rude to us who are in support of the homeless, housing the people who are homeless. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Asha DiMontier. I live at Pomeroy West, Pomeroy and Benton, and I've lived there for most of my life, for the past 29 years. Over the past 5 or so years, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of folks that are living unhoused. Just yesterday morning, I had a guy who was unhoused knock on our door because his partner, who's also unhoused, is having a medical crisis. He had nowhere else to turn to. He's been working with a caseworker for over a year now with the county, but hasn't been able to be placed in housing because there's a shortage of shelter in Santa Clara. So I'm in full support of building this interim housing project. I think it's unconscionable for us in one of the wealthiest areas of the country, let alone the world, to not have a single permanent shelter for the unhoused. Thank you for all your work.
Okay, I want to start with we are not against the shelter, but it's a very specific question of if this specific location is a good choice for a low barrier shelter. The answer is definitely no. Also, I want to mention, if you're not able to provide answers to all the questions from the first meeting and also today's meeting, why are we holding all those meetings? Then I would propose we postpone the entire decision-making timeline, give you more time to think and research and also answer all of our questions and put it on the website as in line and reflect on your proposal. Also, I want to mention, I want to ask a question about the operation. So how much is your estimated operation cost? What does that include? And also, who will carry that cost? Is that the city, the county, or what's the percentage for how many years? And also, who will be responsible for the homeless who cannot check into the facility and wandering in the neighborhood? And also, this facility will run for 15 years. So do you have a plan for 15 years? I don't hear a plan for now for even a single day.
My name is Meeti. I'm in Santa Clara since 10 years. A quick show of hands, how many people have supported a social cause for homelessness in their lifetime? as you see, a lot of people have supported the social cause of homelessness. I think also on behalf of the city, we do see increase in crime. We do see increase in homelessness. We see it. We feel it. The point that we're opposing to is not the social cause of homelessness. We're opposed to the location, the proximity of the location, the kind of people who will be going to the homeless shelter, and the safety of the people who are going inside that shelter due to the proximity to Lawrence Expressway. That's what we're opposed to. We're not opposed to not supporting homelessness. The other pieces, I want you to give us a list of 10 other locations which were rejected as opposed to this location. And I also want to know 5 ways the community was informed about this decision, where community was involved about this meeting, because I did not see that communication going to my neighborhood. Half of my neighbors did not know about this meeting.
Okay. I'm Catherine. I live on Benton for over 15 years. And first of all, we are not against the shelter. From the first day, we are taxpayers. We are helping the homeless, and we are willing to do more to help the homeless. What shocked us is from the first community meeting, I brought the question, do you know within walking distance how many schools we have? You promised you will bring the answer today, but you didn't fulfill your promise, right? And from the first day, we know we have 400 neighbors show up, but we couldn't see each other's questions. So where are the questions? You promised you will just post all these questions and you will answer it. We didn't see nowhere questions, and we don't have the answer. And even the public meeting is listed on YouTube channel as not listed publicly. It means that if someone wants to search for it, it is not searchable. So why for that?
Hey, thank you. I'm a 45-year resident of Santa Clara City, and I really appreciate you guys coming out here and taking the initiative on having something in Santa Clara. This is not, like someone had said, this is not the first time that someone has, or that a group of people have come from Santa Clara and vetoed something. And I'm like, at some point, there has to be a time where we Santa Clara residents say, okay, we can take something. The other one was on, I think it was Monroe and San Tomas, and I went to a similar meeting, and there were some similar reactions. And I'm wondering at what point are us, as Santa Clara residents, going to actually accept something instead of saying, oh, here it's not going to work, here it's not going to work. Well, let's find somewhere that's going to do it. I think one of my main things is, where is the Christmas tree and the pumpkin patch going to go? Because I've been going there for decades. So I hope you find somewhere for that too.
Hi, I'm Alex Wang. I have been living in Santa Clara for 9 years. I just want to tell a true story. 3 weeks ago, at midnight, at 12:30 in the morning, someone tried to break into my home. And this project will only make things worse, I think. Luckily, we have an iron door that can protect us once, twice, but not 3 times.
Hi, my name is Peggy Shen. I've been living in this neighborhood in Sunnyvale for 23 years. And I just wanted to talk about some anecdote. My daughter goes to Peterson, which is quite close to here. And the Peterson kids, they actually walk to Starbucks and the local stores on their own by themselves. So who's protecting these kids? My other items that I wanted to talk about was the funding. Somebody brought up funding. So I don't see any projection of, after this project is built, what is the long-term funding? What happens if they run out of funding? What happens to this site? I know I've lived in this neighborhood for a long time, and I see a lot of homeless people too, just down the street from me. And they're very quiet and we don't see them too much. But if you open a homeless shelter that's an interim homeless shelter, is it just going to be these people, or are you going to bring people from outside? I'm sure people from outside are going to come, and now you're bringing a huge population of homeless people into our area. And then when their time in the shelter runs out, where do they go? Are you going to bust them out? Are you going to make sure they have somewhere else to go? Thank you.
Thank you for providing me this opportunity to voice my concerns. I strongly oppose this project because of safety and security. I've been living in this neighborhood for over 14 years. I live very close to the proximity of this site. And I have seen so many homeless people in this neighborhood, and I'm very scared about the security of my kids. I have seen needles. I've seen a lot of substance abuse, to which I'm really opposed to. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shalini, and I've lived in this community for over 30 years. I live about half a mile away from the site on Pomeroy, and I warmly support this proposal. We've all talked about there's an obvious need, and some people are worried about too many shelters in one area. The only things that are going to work is to answer the problem at a scale that's in proportion to the need, and the need is great. And it's all very well to say how sympathetic you feel for the homeless. Thoughts, prayers, good wishes, little good deeds, giving the odd money here and there is a very short-term temporary solution. The only thing that works in the long run, from all the facts I've seen, are to provide actual interim housing with enough support services that there's a chance to actually help these people move and move on. And where do they go? Into permanent housing. And I think the kind of project we're talking about here is exactly what we need.
Hi, my name is Wei Yi. I want to say that I'm grateful that Sergeant Greg here protecting us. But I also want to say, as he mentioned, there are less and less they can do in law enforcement to protect us. Then how can we trust the 2 Life Move staff on site can protect us from those homeless? And then secondly, I think it's not enough to just have Greg sharing his personal view. We need official data from police department to tell us the crime statistics before and after shelters of this nature being built. And then lastly, I want to ask, how come you get to decide how long we can each speak? Why is it 1 minute but not 59 seconds? Isn't this the same thing you are doing with this proposal, where you get to decide everything and we get to decide nothing?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Felix, and I oppose this proposal. So I actually think we do need to help homeless people. So we actually should think in that perspective. Is this a good location? Hell no. Why? It's actually right on the border of Lawrence and Benton. So I actually have a picture to show. So here's a section that we see from the Lawrence. And this is basically from the weekend land. It's less than 50 feet and less than 0.8 seconds of reaction time for the car turning from the Lawrence. It's extremely dangerous. I personally see 2 accidents. I'm already in it, and I checked the database. There's already 2 fatal accidents in the last 8 years. So how can that be addressed? Secondly, this is basically the nightmare of the transit. They need public transit. But from what I have here, the closest one is basically on the Homestead and Lawrence, and it's 22 minutes drive.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lee. I've been a Santa Clara resident for more than 8 years. I live across Lawrence. I didn't receive any notification about this project. So first of all, I want to request that the decision makers, the board of supervisors, and the city council members and mayors come to our community meetings. For the next community meetings, please let them be here to hear our voice. Second, I want to let the public know that this parcel is zoned for R1, which is for low-density residential home. This is not, according to our city code, this is not a location for emergency shelters. Emergency shelters right now is only allowed in light industrial area, which everyone agrees, I believe. So, but I see a big gap here because this project is funded by HomeKey, that is so well funded by the state. So that's the only reason that county can propose this project, because HomeKey projects is trying to bypass all the zoning and the environmental requirements.
Hello, my name is Luisa, and I live walking distance to Lawrence and Benton, and I strongly oppose this project. And I feel like I'm losing faith and trust in the county for being so sneaky. And I would like to address my neighbors and see if we can get together, and maybe I'm willing to be at the door collecting emails and names, and maybe get together and inform each other in case we need to take some other action. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yueming San. So I have 3 questions. The first one is the Mountain View one is in the industrial area, but this one is in the residential area. So why you choose this area? The second question is why we only have 1 more hearing? We need more hearings. Why you guys push this so fast? So we need more QA. We need our question to be better answered. Third one is our neighbors don't know about this. So like only 10% of us are informed. So this is not fair. You should inform everyone in the neighborhood. So I strongly against this.
Hi, I'm Dan. My family member worked with organizations like yours and similar, and they have, your places have 1 drug test, and they fail, then they're out. And to you, the officer, where do they go? They're out on the streets. Why don't we put near the mayor's house? Great America's closing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Venkat. I'm a new homeowner. I bought my home less than a year back. I heard this comment that the home prices are not going to go down based on a report from the county assessor. Now, the county assessor is only responsible for property tax, and by law, you cannot increase or decrease it by more than 2%. But that is not supported by market data of actual people who are wanting to buy the houses. Where is the market data impact of the real estate prices? I'm neither for nor against, but I want to know. I don't want you to provide biased information from the county assessor office rather than relying on true market data. And my second point is that the handout here says the site at Benton and Lawrence was no longer needed for its original purpose. What is the original purpose? No one knows I don't know what the original purpose was. 3 months of the year, I take my child out to play in the bouncy castles and the Christmas trees. Now, I know that is rather frivolous compared to homelessness, but is there a replacement for that, right? As children, I would like to know where they are going to be.
Hi, my name is Tom. I've lived in the neighborhood 25 years. I think it's unconscionable you would build this next to an 8-lane expressway without a sound wall for the people, according to your diagram. It would be so loud that your community area would be someplace no one would want to go to. I think it's unconscionable it took you 19 months to come to reach and talk to us. I think it's unconscionable that this is half a mile away from public transportation, yet you say it's close to public transportation. I think it's unconscionable this is 300 feet away from another transitional house, which your name is on the documents I pulled when you rammed that next to my house next door. I think it's unconscionable this is 1,000 feet from a park, which would be a violation of Megan's Law if you put sex offenders inside there in your low barrier to entry. And I think it's unconscionable because people are expressing concerns about their family that you belittle them and think they don't care about homeless. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Manuel, and I'm just going to read a couple of things here. You have to hold it. State officials for years have warned against building homes within 500 feet of freeways, where people suffer high rates of asthma, heart disease, cancer, and other health problems linked to car and truck pollution. And with good reason, people there suffer higher rates of asthma, heart attacks, strokes, lung cancer, preterm births. There's some evidence that have risks to the list, including child obesity, autism, and dementia. In short, in your efforts to be doing something favorable to the community, you will be putting people who are probably highly compromised in health into a dangerous environment where toxic gases can probably help speed up their demise. The second thing I have to say is that I have a forward.
Can I give him one? Can we give him another minute? All right, Let's restart it.
Thank you. I'm going to read a article. I'm Sherry. I live about a quarter mile away as the crow flies across from this potential development. I'm going to read something from the San Jose Mercury. Santa Clara will no longer consider a site on White Oak Lane for a potential project home key development following community backlash and concerns among council members that the project for transitional housing wouldn't be financially feasible and would be too close to high-speed transportation. A majority of the council also raised concerns with the location of the project, stating that it wouldn't have good access to public transportation as off Lawrence Expressway on a turn that drivers make at high speeds. So they basically pushed it a half a mile down south, and the only excuses I've heard is the land is cheaper because it's owned by the county. So I'd like a little more information on that. And then, hold on. Okay.
My name is Alex Shore. My family has lived in this valley for 70 years, and I've been to probably hundreds of community meetings like this over the last few years. In many of those meetings, you hear opposition like we're hearing tonight. And unfortunately, if you say not in this neighborhood, not in my neighborhood, if that happens in every neighborhood in Silicon Valley, it only exacerbates the housing crisis. So we can't continue the patterns of opposing development anywhere, because if that happens everywhere, we will all be unable to solve the crisis that unifies even those who are opposed to it, which is building housing so everyone has shelter and a place to live in our community.
Hi, my name is Laura, and I used to live in this neighborhood. I'm a renter. Any renters? Very few. Thank you, very few. And I'm heartbroken, and I was totally dismayed and distressed that I just found out about this. And I wish I had more notice. I wish everyone had more notice. I'm afraid you have to understand these things take time. I still imagine we're going to lose. And I also believe that there's the number of units is too high for this space. The community won't accept it. So it's just a heartbreak all around. But my biggest dismay is for the people who have roots here and who aren't blown around with the wind like the rest of us are and can't even imagine. They should be fighting and pushing for housing for low income and very low income people. And all they do is, mind their own business and then complain when someone comes along. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I live in Santa Clara and have since 1985. Prior to that, Sunnyvale. I have one question I'd like an answer to. Who will be voting yes or no on this project? The answer?
Hi, my name is Ashi. I'm a middle schooler who lives on Wood Duck, very close to the site. I think the main concern most of us have is the children of the neighborhood, because I know a lot of kids that walk to and from Laurelwood and Peterson very often, also to parks, other like Starbucks, everything. I'm just very concerned that something could happen to us kids.
Hi, I'm Leanna Johnson. I just have 3 comments. One is, where are the other studies for other locations? And number 2 is 80 parking spots for 124 is too little. There's staff and all that. And also, just from experience, knowing a few people that have mental illness, they will not go to Lawrence, wait for the light, cross the light on Benton, to go to the liquor store or to go to 7-Eleven. They will just cross right on Benton. They don't have the patience for a light. So thank you.
Sure, I just have two comments. So first comment I want to speak to everybody is supporting to this. First, I'm opposing to this. So for us who opposing to this, we understand probably for homeless who is even have a crime history, 80% or 90% people is actually good people. They will return to their normal life. But what we were concerning about is the 10 people or 20% of people. And for those who don't concern about it, I salute for your big heart, but you cannot require the big heart for everybody because one single one of the accident can just break a whole family. And for the second thing about it is just the crime usually happens in the next proximity of the criminal where it was. It's the majority of time. The surgeon can probably speak about that as well. So that's has research on that. So the thing is we're gathering a lot of people in the same location. And we're trying to probably the crime rate will potentially increase because of there's 10% of people. And we need, if we actually build it, we need a plan for that.
Hi, my name is Melinda. I'm a 10-year renter in the neighborhood. I'm in favor of this proposal. I hear your concern about your children. As a mother, I'm telling you that it's not difficult to explain homelessness to your children. I've done it myself. You tell them the age, with age-appropriate language, that the building is for people who don't have a home until they can find a home. Your kids will understand and will be more empathetic for it. The proposed location is ideal for this facility. It's only used 2 months out of the year. It's paid for, and there are plenty of other places in the county where you can get pumpkins and see Santa. Considering that many who would be living in this building might not have a car, it's important that they can find what they need within walking distance. Within about a mile, there is access to grocery stores, convenience stores, fast food, parks, and Kaiser. Just a little bit further is a library and a pharmacy. Putting a facility like this in an industrial...
Hi, my name is Lynn. I've lived on Butcher Drive for 40 years and in Santa Clara since 1973. This is a bad place to put this. Sell the lot, buy 2 big buildings out in an industrial area with big parking lots and plenty of facilities. I don't want, not all the homeless are bad people. And I think there's a transition house on Schaefer that has never been a problem. But you have to, oh, okay. I don't live on Schaefer, so I don't know. Anyhow, so choosing the people and having a barrier to entry that is at least reasonable is a good idea. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much. My name is Wayne. I live on Pomeroy. I just moved in last year, and I vote against this project strongly. And I guess I don't have to list another reason to oppose it. I guess I just want to say to folks that make sure that you call the city council members directly, because this committee may compile all the feedbacks. They can choose whatever they want the council to see. So make sure you call the council members directly. And also we have a Senate that represents the District 15, and his name is Dave, and you can search it on Google. So make sure your voice is heard. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate. I live in nearby. So back to the very first question, with all this majority opposed to this project, will this be stopped, or what we can do to stop this? So 6 Santa Clara City Council member and the mayor can say no to this, right? If they cannot represent us, we will vote them down.
Hi, my name is Eva. I want to share some of my own feelings. As a girl living in this community, I already feel very unsafe of the break-ins and the massive shoots and all of this happening around us. I even don't have a dog like the previous gentleman at home.
So I'd like to say, like, I am opposing to this, and to people who ask us to be compassionate for those people, can you feel compassionate for us to feel safe and supported by the community? We are talking about our own safety, and it's nearly the only most important thing for a human being, that's it's our own safety. I'd love to help the homeless by donating money or like being volunteers, but I don't want to sacrifice my own safety. I don't want to do that. And and I don't want to like move out of the county because of this. Like a home needs to be safe in order to be home. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to get my phone number down because I want to answer a lot of these questions. If there's anything that's public safety related, if you have any questions just about like, just in general what's going on with crime, homelessness, whatever, this is why the community response team with the police department exists. So if anybody's interested in calling me, I guarantee I will get back to you. I will give you an answer. We will have that discussion. So if anybody cares for it, my number is 408-615-4745. That's my desk line. It's 408-615-4745, and we'll have those discussions without the time constraints. Thanks. It's Sergeant Deeger.
Thank you, Sergeant. Can we put the map up? And to give you the number, there are 4 schools within 1.5 miles of the property, 1 high school, 1 middle school, 2 elementaries, and the private schools. So I realize the map is small. We're going to post it and email it, but the icons on the right show you the different type of schools that we looked at, from middle school, high school, childcare, libraries, and the parcel you can see on the left-hand side. We'll leave this up. And then at this time, I did want to invite Vice Mayor Park, who would like to say a few words before we wrap up with next steps. To clarify, everybody, the number that I gave you is within 1.5. This shows you a farther distance. Just wanted to give you we looked at, what is around 1.5. We mentioned you. Yes. Thank you.
Kevin and I are both here. My name is Karen Hardy. I'm on the City Council. And I want you to understand that we're here just to listen. We don't know at this time how much say-so we will have because the county does own this. I will say also, when you talk about schools, we have designed Santa Clara so there's no place you're really that far away from a school on purpose, and parks. And I work at the high school. I obviously care about children. I'm a grandparent. I raised my kids here. So we want you to know that we really want you to understand that we're listening, but we also have some limitations. We're going to find out about that, okay? We don't know. The council will be briefed in April. But I will say, since we're in a church, and I am a Christian, Matthew 25:40. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. So I want you to understand. We have to be understanding to each other, even if we disagree on things. There's no reason to be disagreeable, even if we disagree. We're listening and we're just taking in information. That's why we're here.
So I want to say a couple things. So I'm Kevin Park, and I'm the Vice Mayor of Santa Clara right now. I'm also a resident. This is my district. I've lived here for over 25 years. I have a 6-year-old daughter who goes to a school in this area. If you want to know how I vote, you want to know how I think, you can look at every single city council vote that I've ever had. You can also look at years, literally years of going to planning commission meetings and city council meetings. I will say this very, very loudly. I have probably gone to more city council meetings and planning commission meetings on my own time than anyone in this city, right? No one is more serious about the city and my neighborhood and my daughter and my schools than I am. At the same time, I'm an engineer, right? And when you say, what does an engineer do? I try to get ahead of the problem. So I want everyone to know, I send out notification for the first meeting the minute that I knew that there was a meeting planned, I sent out a notification. Like, and if people read that, I got calls almost immediately because I sent that notification out because I wanted everyone. I knew about the issues. I voted on White Oak. You can see how I voted there. You can see my reasons, right? My issue is not voting yes or no. My issue is I have to find findings to vote yes or no. Does that make sense? You don't just say yes or no because that's how you feel. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of things that didn't get done just because I didn't like it. I'm saying what we can do, and again, when we tell you that when Councilmember Hardy and I tell you that we cannot vote or we cannot give you opinions on this project, this is real. We cannot tell you how we feel about a project that we are going to vote on. That's illegal. So what I will do and what I have done, I know a lot of people here have talked to me in person. We've set up neighborhood meetings. Somebody asked, will you come to neighborhood meetings? I'll go to every single neighborhood meeting that you invite me to. And I will. And anyone who knows me knows that this is true. I will do this. You know, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote, but I will tell you this. I'm an engineer. I want to solve the problems in our community. You have problems. I don't think anyone has talked to more homeless people in the last year than I have, not in our neighborhood. Every 2 to 3 months, I walk the creeks, Calabasas, Stevens Creek, all the way down to Stevens Creek. I walk all the creeks. My council cell phone has names and numbers and sometimes email addresses of every single homeless person that I meet. And I'll tell you, after 2 months, I can't contact any of them. Like, I have so many numbers here that after 2 months, I would say everyone, I can no longer contact them. Their phones no longer pick up, no longer go through, and I don't see them on the streets. I want you to think about that. Like my daughter, we had a discussion this morning. I want to start walking her to school. And I wouldn't do that if I didn't feel safe, right? And I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't tell you to do that if I didn't feel that your family was safe, because literally, I am the only person on city council right now that has a toddler going to school. I think that a lot of people who had children or don't have children, they've forgotten what it's like to be a paranoid parent and worry about every single thing that your daughter does or your son does or does not do, and all the dangers, right? So if you feel unsafe, you 100% better understand that I feel unsafe too. But I want to tell you something. Okay, and I understand that. So we will talk to them and I will do as much as I can. And everyone who has ever worked with me knows I am trying to find a good answer for the residents. And affordable housing, everyone should know my views on affordable housing. There's no such thing as affordable housing. There's no such thing as affordable housing. Affordable housing is based on AMI, the area median income, and the area median income is like $160,000. The people that need housing don't make anywhere near that. And if they're renting doesn't give people affordable housing. Renting actually squeezes the money from renters that they could have used to put down a down payment. For all the people that have homes, all the people that have mortgages, you know if you can avoid an adjustable rate mortgage, you get a fixed cost for 30 years. During the last campaign, I met a number of people who had been renting for 30, 32 years, 36 years or more, and 32, 36 years later, they're being forced out because the homeowner wants to sell, or the homeowner passed away and their children want to sell, and now, over 30 years later, instead of owning a house, they are further away from home ownership than they were 30 years ago if they could have afforded a down payment. Okay? But listen. So somebody asked me about these things, so I'm trying to address it. And this is why we can't just address every single thing, because if we start to answer questions, then this is what happens. Everyone has more questions. So you know my email address. And I'm going to say, if you have any doubts, talk to me. Don't assume, talk to me. At the end of the day, I'm an engineer, and I would like to look at how we can find a homeless, how we can fix the homeless problem. And I'm going to say this. If we're looking for a solution, I don't want to hear. Okay, and tell me if this is true. If you're an engineer, tell me that this is true. When somebody gives you a problem, your answer isn't just no. Your answer is, what can we do to fix that problem? Right. Okay, and so again, I'm not going to tell you, if there are problems with this project, I'm going to tell you what to do. You tell them what kind of project you would like. But I'll say this, if you're an engineer and somebody gives you a problem, your answer isn't no, your answer is, this is how you can fix this problem, right? And if you're not thinking about, what we can do here, if all you're thinking about is no, then I think we really need to get beyond this and start thinking about what do you want here, right? So I'm going to end here because, again, like at some point, you need to be respectful of the people's time and our time as well, right? If it's close to your houses, it's close to my house too. I want you to understand that. I don't have a lower standard than any of you out there, right? But I will say, we'll ask for more time, we'll try to get something, but again, if no is the only thing that you have to say, I don't think that we're going far enough. Right, thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, the materials will be posted on the website. We will see you here on the 9th, same style. If you have